I also have my own startup here in China.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Might I ask a question?
Sure, go for it.
So I mean, were you able to move to China because of the job, or you were already there and then?
I was already here. I was studying here for a few years before.
Oh, okay, awesome, awesome. Charlie,
Yeah.
the child of money.
Oh no, I know we so proud. And maybe we can talk about it later after the
That's
main.
good. Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I guess someone here can go next.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Okay. So I'm Samuel Hagan. I work with Native Temple in Kumasi. I mainly do Laravel and then HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The traditional software stack. I'm now learning React, although I've done it before, but I didn't really go deep into it. So um, that is it about me. I also do Java, and I'm trying to learn Kotlin as well. Actually, it's on the list also. I've dabbled everywhere. That's the kind of thing. Alright, so that's about me. I'm working on my website, so next week, it's over a year now and it has been dormant. So I'm trying to get it up and running. So I'll do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Alright.
That's good.
Alright. So I think Emmanuel can introduce himself.
Okay, so I'm Emmanuel Tenwills, and I'm currently in Dansoman, and I recently joined Ubuntu for my service. Yeah. Okay, I'm a backend developer. Yeah, and basically I use Laravel. Then I have a little experience with Django too, and um, I'm also into ML, machine learning. Yeah, and I'm thinking of um, having some practical hands-on experience with um, deep learning. Yeah.
Oh,
Aw-
nice.
Awesome.
That's it.
So you studied computer science or something?
I did computer engineering at UNE, University of Energy and Natural Resources.
Sunyani, right? Eastern Region.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Most, I didn't do computer. I didn't study anything related to computer engineering. I actually learned it from my
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'll quickly ask that if you're no longer talking, just mute your microphone so that noise doesn't bleed through. Thanks.
Oh,
Okay, I guess next we could go on to Emmanuel Ting, or was he on that just did intro?
Oh, that's Michael Edu.
Yeah, sure. Michael, go ahead.
No, Michael Edu posted. He said he's a backend developer, front-end mobile app developer. His mic is not working. Node.js, Flutter, React, and React Native. Okay, Mike.
Nice. Okay, seen it.
Whoa, amazing. Hey, so I'm wondering, with these skill sets, what role do you put when you're going for a job?
Depending on what the job requests for, I should believe.
I think
you
it's
pick
more of a front
everything.
end. I think it's more of like a front end role. To be honest, like for
Oh,
example, like in the agency that I work in, most
mm-hmm.
people do like they have like a full. Most people are full stack. Like myself, I'm
Okay.
full stack. I
Awesome.
do like front end stuff with Vue and React, and I also do mobile, but with like which have many programs. But then my primary like title is like backend developer, also backend software engineer.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm sure
Cool.
out of those ones, there'll be one or two that he mostly um, handle the Dart side mostly, do with Firebase as well. Yeah, so mostly mobile then with Dart. So sounds good. I think that's mostly the case.
Okay.
At least for the early stages until like you've been in the game for like 10, 15 years where you have many years of experience in many different roles.
Nice.
Cool. Okay. Is there anyone else that hasn't done the introduction? I think that's about it. So we can get started. Ruben.
Just a sec. Um, Okay, hi. I like to do it this way so that we can connect. So my name is Ruben from Pong, and most of the pages I use Fancy Rose. That's my nickname. I'm a full stack web developer. I mostly work with Laravel and then Vue.js. Yes, those are my stack. I do full stack, but I do some small UI designs, not when the job requires, but that's not my field. I'm also a coding tutor. I've trained over, I've interacted with over 250 students currently. Most of them are children under 15 years. I've trained people how to develop websites, how to build web applications. My last class was a PHP class. It was interesting to see what people can build when they are trained. Mostly, I like to say I'm a solution engineer. I didn't even know it was an official thing until Eddie Mens also said it last week. But then I call myself a solution engineer because, this banter about, this programming language and that programming language, well, I get the job done. That's why I call myself a solution engineer. Tell me your problem, and then I'll translate it and solve it with code. So that's how I work. I am a progressive learner. In fact, my default mode is to be learning. When I'm not doing anything, I'm learning. Basically, that's me. Uh, and then I created a music market too, so that people could share their music content on the platform. So if you know somebody who's trying to look for a Ghanaian platform where they can share their music content without any charge, they just sign up, upload their content, share, people engage with their content. Basically, that is how it works. And then unofficially too, I play piano. That's something I do in church. All right, so you can
You
follow
ready,
me.
Ruben?
Say that
I
again.
think we did.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Much better now.
Okay. I don't know. What's the last thing?
What was the last thing? Solutions architect,
It's
solutions
breaking.
engineer.
Okay.
But after that,
Okay. All right. So like I said, I'm a solution engineer because I take the problem and I prefer working that way. Give me the problem and let me solve it with code. Progressive learner, default mode. I'm learning. I can learn anything you bring. I don't need to have all the skills, but once you bring it on, I can learn it. And I created music market GH for people can share their songs. Uh, uh, Unlike the native way in Ghana where you send a song to somebody and
So the music market, so
unlike the native way. So you go there, you upload, you sign up, you upload. You can go there and use it without signing up, but then you will not be able to upload. But when you want to interact with things like favoriting a song, those kind of stuff, then you would have to sign up first. So my LinkedIn is Frimpong Ruben. I have a Facebook page for Ruben Dakota. You can get me there. And you can see some of the videos of kids I've trained and their presentations over there. And then you can also follow me on um, Twitter. All right. So Ruben Dakota. All right. Okay. At this juncture, I'm going to, okay, so I'll be your facilitator for today, and we will be continuing our lessons on GraphQL. Immediately my network begins to mess up, just let me know, because at this juncture, I'm going to stop the video, and you see my other one. Are we okay?
Yep, real good.
All right, okay. So the last time we met, we did learned how to set up our GraphQL, and then we learned about types, how we can set up types, and I explained to you that the types represent your table structure, more like the columns you are exposing to your front end. Okay, those are the things that come into your type. So usually these types will, in most situations, be representing your table, and then probably some few extra fields. We also learned about how to do the queries. Now, I told you these directives, we call them directives, are used to, there are lots of them when you're using this particular package we call the Lighthouse package. So we use them to do a lot of stuff. There are a lot of them on there are a lot of them on the official page where
Is the video breaking at everyone's end?
Yeah, so same. We're losing Ruben.
Okay, it looks like today my network is not the best. Is it still breaking?
Much better now.
Okay, so immediately it does that, just notify me.
You can pay attention to the chat as well, like
Alright.
show it's easy to send a message over there.
Okay, all right.
All right, cool.
Okay, so the last time we ended on these ones. So I explained to you the types and the queries. This we learned basically how to use GraphQL queries, and so this directive, all directive, is used to retrieve everything, and then we know that with this we are retrieving a collection. That is why we have this syntax, array syntax around it, and we learned that this sign means that it's a required something. And then also we learned that, I mean, we can pass parameters just like how we would have used wildcards if we were using the regular REST. And here, this directive represents that whatever we pass into this parameter is equal to the something in your, you're expecting to check the equality of it. And then finally, the find, which you already know about. I believe you can hear me. So if you can hear me well, just put something in the network. Sorry.
Yep, all good.
All right. Okay. So today I'm going to start from the basic CRUD operations. How we can create, we can read, we can update, and we can delete, and we already know what that is. Which the only way to do that when you come to your GraphQL applications is to use what we call the mutations. So quickly, I'm going to go back to our official platform documentation. We are using, don't forget, we are using Lighthouse PHP, and that's the URL, lighthousephp.com. And if you go to basics and you go to schema, don't forget, when you are doing GraphQL, most of your stuff is in your schema. So I'm trying to load the documentation so that we can, the other time we went through this. So, okay. So when you come to, you see that it's showing us, we've talked about types, we talked about a little about queries, but we haven't said anything about mutations. All right. So if you come here, it will tell you something brief about mutations. And as we can see, it is creating, updating, deleting something. And we are also going to try it out. All right. So I'm going into our application. So the first thing is also, it's also a type, right? So going to create a type of mutation. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is going to create a new customer. Okay, let me check. Is my connection okay? It has rained here actually, in this part of Ghana when it rains. Am I good now?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
now. You're good now.
Okay. There's been rains around today, so I'm sure that is what is heavily impacting the network. Okay, so I'm going to first do a create new customer. All right. Don't forget we have a customer table. So let me see the fields. We have the first name, last name, and then the phone number. So these are the required stuff that we need. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go to my schema and I'm going to say create customer. So this is the name of the mutation. Then the next thing that follows is this bracket sign. And then there is going to have a parameter list of whatever I'm expecting, the input I'm expecting. All right. So if I'm creating a new customer, what am I expecting? I'm breaking it onto another line. So I'm expecting a first name, and you just should match the fields, the table fields. So, and should be of type string. Have I missed something? First name. Let's go. If I finish typing and it's still red, then I'll know what to do. So first name of type string, and it's required. Okay. The next thing I'm expecting is last name. It's also of type string. It's also required. And then the phone number, which is also a string and is also required. Okay. Now this alone is not enough. So it wants to know of which type is this. So the type I'm creating is a customer type. I believe that's clear. It's more like the model I'm using for this particular mutation is customer. Okay. So
Yeah.
first name, last name, phone number. All right. So basically with this, I am almost done. The next thing is I have to add the directive that shows what I'm doing. So what is this mutation doing? It's supposed to create. So you use the create directive so that it creates this customer with these parameters that will be passed into it. So quickly, I'm going to open our playground. Don't forget playground. And like I said, whatever thing you're using, I've not started my server. Let me start my server. PHP artisan server because I'm using the local host. Okay, so now if I come back to my playground, localhost / GraphQL, and then I open it. All right. So as you can see, I've been experimenting some stuff. My server has not started still. Did I type something wrong? It started. Okay. So I have to comment out my query because what I'm going to run is not a query. So I'm commenting those ones out. You can delete, but I prefer to comment. But what I'm going to do is rather a mutation. So I'm going to unlock my mutations. Okay, so these things are out. Let me do it from start so that we all see. Okay. I think because I'm not using like the auth and all those things. We'll have to manually accept the user ID. Okay, because on our table we accept the foreign ID. So we're going to do that somewhere at the last thing. So user ID, and it's of type ID. It's required. Don't forget this type. When it's ID, the type is ID. And if all this sounds foreign to you, go and watch our first video, and also you can visit the official documentation to read more about it. So I'm going back to our playground. All right. So this is a mutation called create customer, and it's going to accept the inputs. If you like, you can break it on a new line. If you like, you can leave it like that. So first name, and this first name, let's say it's called Serial, and the last name.
Oh,
Or in 10 minutes time, we'll have to rejoin Selassie. And the next thing, let me break these onto their own lines so that it looks more readable. And let me move this far away so that it doesn't distract us. Okay, then the phone number is a string, so anything, whatever. And let's say this user, if you were actually doing a real thing, you wouldn't hard code the user like this. Maybe you would accept it, the eloquent means there'll be more efficient ways of doing this, but this is just for demonstration. So let's say the user ID, I have some users in it. I think at least I have 2 or 3. So let's say this is for the user of the type ID. Sorry.
your audio is breaking up a bit. We lost you there.
Okay. So is my audio clear enough now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. So I'm explaining to you what we are doing here. I don't know if you got the explanation. Did we get?
So pretty much we caught you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last thing that we caught was you filling out the last name, and then separating just reformatting the code, and then from the phone number and the user ID, whatever you said in between those, we didn't hear.
Oh, okay, then it's good, because what I was even actually saying was I'm trying to move the other stuff so that they don't distract us. So then we're on point. I'm also saying that this user ID, there will be more efficient ways you would have gone about it if you were building a whole application on it.
Got it.
Yeah. So these are the parameters we are accepting. Now, what is left is that when this mutation is done, creating, which fields are you interested in? When you're using MySQL, you don't have that, what should I say? When you create a new, anything in your database, automatically what you get in return is the ID, right? That's the return value. But here, what we can do is we can automatically get what is created on the fly for us. So we want the first name and the last name to be returned when this user is successfully created. That is what this part means. So if all is clear and all is good, and I hit my play button, let me hit my play button. My play button is not hidden. Do I have an error somewhere? Okay, yes, I do. All right. Let me close this mutation here. Okay. So now if I hit my play button, it's still not hitting. I'll still have an error. Okay. Let me delete this one. It's actually the, how do you call, the mix up. All right. Let me check. So what do I have here? It says unknown argument, user ID on failed create customer. Okay, these things, like I said, I added them when I had already opened this. So let me reload, and usually I don't even have to reload. Let me hit it. If it doesn't work, then I know that there's a problem. So I'm trying to play and it works. It created the user for us, and then it returns the first name and then the last name. So if you're wondering why this is in red and it's saying it's an error, you remember that last week I was telling you that when you open up your schema, your playground, and then you make a change in your code, you may have to restart the whole application, because as it turns out, even when I restarted, reloaded the schema, it's still showing the error message there. So basically that is why it's like this. So we have a new user created with our GraphQL mutation. We have created this new user. So we can go and query all our users and see if this particular user is there. If you are okay and you're hearing me clearly, just give me something.
Yeah, all good.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Good. So quickly, I'm going to, up to now, we've not run any queries on our customer. So let's set up a query for all our customers, okay? So this query will return customer. Don't forget, it's going to be a collection. That's why it's surrounded with this. The customer is required, and then it's also required that it has to be this. I'm going to use the all directive, and this should return all customers that I have in my database. Okay, so for that to work too, I have to comment out my mutation code so that I can go and run the query. Let me comment this out. And go and uncomment my queries. Where is my query? Okay, query starts from here. And so I'm going to say customers. And don't forget, when it comes to GraphQL, you have to specify the fields you're interested. So we're interested in the first names, the last name, and the phone number of all customers. I'm sure there's an error somewhere. Is it close on? Close. Let me hit my play button. And if I have any syntax error, don't forget, we added this one we have already opened our playground. So if we don't want to see this error, we may have to restart the whole playground. Don't forget that. Okay. So it retrieves all my customers for me. And let's scroll through the list. And yes, we can see the customer we created. If we're in doubt, we can create another one and then come and rerun this query. So I'm going to comment this out and comment my query block out. So I'm going to create another mutation. Don't forget, it's a mutation that we use to do that kind of thing. So my mutation, I believe, doesn't matter. Let me just use this here. And this is our mutation code. Let me uncomment it. So now let's change the user. Okay, so Samuel is my first name. Again, is my last name. Let me give it some weird phone number. And this belongs to the user with the ID of 1. Okay, so if I hit this is created. Now, if I run the comment out my mutations and I run a query for all the users that I have, where does my query start from? I mean, you wouldn't have all these things. I still wondering why I don't want to delete them, but then it's preference. So this is where my query starts. Let me uncomment it. All right, then let's run our query for all customers. Okay, and when we hit, let's look for Samuel. Samuel is here. And we could even add a directive. We have less than 1 minute, so I'll wait here. I'll wait to the documentation side. I'm not going to do any much thing, so that when we go off, we will come back and come and meet this part. So to look for other directives, I'm going to API reference on the documentation, API reference, you go to directives. We're going to change the order. So how do we order? You can see there's a lot of directives here. So we can order by, you can use the order by directive. How do you use it? It say you specify the order by, and then you specify the column, and then put it on record. All right, so the documentation is telling us about ordering. Well, let me see. Sometimes it could be confusing, but I think this one is fairly simple. Post, it says we should use order by, and then underscore at order by, then specify the columns that we want to order by. It is recommended to change the settings when using this directive. Use it on the field argument. The type can be left blank as it will be automatically generated. So that is why we have the underscore there. It's telling us instead of putting something like customer or something, we can leave it blank. So let's give it a shot and see if we can get it to work in our situation. Okay, so we would have to put something here called order by, if I got it right. Let me check, let me refer to the docs. Order by, okay, yes. And then we put an underscore and order by, at order by, at order by. And oh, if you open your PHP Storm, you will not have GraphQL highlighted like these for you. It will be very, very raw. I have a how do you call, an extension or a plugin installed. That's why my GraphQL code is in, highlighted this way. And I'm sure when you do a PHP Storm will suggest it for you, but make sure you use the right one. I don't remember the name. Okay, so we specify the columns. So here, wait, I didn't get it real. Columns. Wait, why is it that once I move off, I forget? Okay, so order by is a more like a function that takes columns. And then the column we want to use here, we want to order by first name. Let me see if that is what the documentation said we should do. Okay, it's double quotes. I'm using single quotes. I hope. All right. That's my underscore. Let me check. Did I get everything right? I believe I did. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to my playground. Where's my playground? It's here. And let me hit it again and see if I have any issues. Okay. TSYTYT. I don't think this is ordered. I don't think this is not ordered, right? Did we miss something? Let's see if there's a different way to query it. So posts order by, columns, posts at Lighthouse will automatically generate. I haven't missed anything, right? Posts, order by. Let me copy this and then compare it to my code and see if I've missed something. Otherwise, I'll have to do it later. It's probably push it as a fix. Okay, so they said posts. So mine is customers, order by, underscore, underscore. I'm specifying my columns just like how they are specifying theirs. First name, and then my type, and that is it. But it is not picking mine, or all right, let me restart my playground and see if it does any good. If it doesn't, we just move on. All right, so URL endpoint is localhost 8000 / GraphQL. Okay, so you can see that the errors are gone, even though the code is still there. Let me see. I don't find it being ordered, but then that's what the documentation said. And who am I? Unless, I don't know, it's not ordering. Okay, let's continue. So we know how to, we can later learn how to get it to work, but basically we get the general idea. We know how to create our user. Let's learn how to update a user. So we create updates customer. And I think we're going to use the same inputs. So I'm not going to waste your time. So type customer. Let's use the update directive. Okay. So, and then that's it. So let's go to our playground and give it a shot. This is not a query. This is a mutation. Don't forget, if you are altering the data, you use mutations. So the only thing I need is, let me do this here instead of going down there. Since it's going to look just like this, and I don't want to lose this code, I'm just going to comment this out. So this time I'm going to specify the ID. Unfortunately, I don't know that if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm guessing 0 will have an ID of 7. So let me accept the ID in our not sure. So we are accepting, when you're updating, usually you want to accept the ID. It's required. Are we okay? All right. So I'm going back to my playground, and then I'm going to change this to update customer. Like I said, because I've already opened my playground, it will indicate it as an error. And this, I want the user of the ID 7, which I'm hoping it will be 0. And I'm going to change his name to China. And his last name will be the same. And his phone number, now we'll use plus something, something, something. And he still belongs to, he had the ID of 2 for the user. And if I did everything right, if I hit my play button, it works. So now he's no more Cyril Selassie, but he's now China Selassie. And if we query for all our users, we'll no more find Cyril Selassie, but we'll rather find this new edit that we did. So let's do that also quickly. Where's my queries? My query is somewhere here. All right, where are you? Here. And comment this. And where's the query for? Yes, customers is here. So I'm just going to introduce this here. And I hit. So now we don't have Cyril Selassie, but we have China Selassie. And so that you know, let me include the ID so that we know that he was the one with the ID of 7. So you can see the IDs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was him. Okay. I think this is also clear. So I'm going to jump from the updates to how to delete a user. So let's go and create a mutation for deleting. And for delete, of course, you will not need all these. You just need delete customer. You just need the ID of the field you are deleting. So ID of type ID, and it's a requirement, so they have to enter it. And this is of type customer. And then you use the delete directive. So whatever ID they specify, delete it. Okay, so let's quickly go and try it in our playground. So I'm going to comment out this. Now I've made my query very slim. And create our mutations here. Comment this and comment this. Okay, so the mutation I'm going to run is for deleting a user. So delete customer. And I'm going to specify, I'm going to delete test 2. So ID of 5. So ID 5. And if you are interested, you can say, okay, when you're done deleting, let me know the person you deleted. So want to know the ID we deleted, the first name of the person we deleted, the last name of the person we deleted. Okay, so if I'm okay and I hit my play, okay, so we've deleted the customer with the ID of 5. The name was test2, and then that was the last name. I believe he got this. Okay, so basically we've done create, read, update, and delete. Create, read, yes, the read is for the queries, and update, delete. All right, so let me show you how to do validation, because of course you wonder, wait, how do we go about validation when we are using GraphQL? Okay, so when you go to their official documentation, they have a section called security, and they have validation. So if we go to validation, they are showing us what we can do. So you can just apply these things. Let me just try this with you, then I'll also show you another way, which is more something. All right, so let me go. We can, let's say when we are creating our user, we want to add some validation rules. So let me just copy so that I don't have to come back. No, that's not what I'm interested, but it's okay. I don't know if I could do that, but let me, so that I just see the syntax. I'm just interested in the syntax. Okay, so we want to, on our, let's say on our first name, we want to apply, so use the rules directive. We want to apply a validation where the main The minimum characters allowed is 3. Okay, all right. So I'm going to, I think the syntax, I got it. So first name, yeah, string, required rules, apply minimum of 3. All right. So let me go to our playground, comment out the delete, and then let's try to create a new user. And let's say this person, we try to give him the name of SA Hagen. Let's see what we get. Okay, so you see validation for the field create customer. The first name must be at least 3 characters. You got it. Okay. So if you're there, just put something in the comments so that I know that I'm not alone here. All right. So this is the easy way you can do your validation. So you can just add multiple, stuff to do it. But then what if you wanted to do something more complicated? Okay. With that, you would have to use your own directives, a validation directive. So first you have to know how to create a directive, and then you have to then extend it to using the validate directive here. All right. All right, great. We're there. So how do you create a directive? So let's say what we wanted to do was some very, very complicated validation. So the directives are not enough for us. So you want to go your own way, the Laravel way. How do you do that? So to do that, we say PHP artisan. I'm creating a directive, my custom directive. Artisan lighthouse, I think lighthouse, and you say directive, and you specify the name of the directive. So let's say complex validation. And for this particular one, usually if I'm doing a query or all those things, I would have added maybe complex validation query, complex validation mutation. But when it comes to directive, once we create this file, the name directive will already be added to the class. So I'm not going to. And if I remember the syntax. Okay, so the directive has been successfully created. So a new folder will be created called GraphQL if you don't already have it. And it will have directive. So this is, you see what I was saying. So it's automatically added directive to it. So when I go into this file, I'm not going to implement anything. Now let's read the documentation on how to create a validation directive. They said that to create a reusable validator that can be applied to fields, extend the base validation directive to validation directive, blah, blah, blah. Your custom directive class should be located in one of the configured default directive namespaces. So we have done this by using the artisan command. So the next thing we have to do is, instead of extending the base directive, we have to extend validation directive. So, and this implements thing is new. I don't know why. Now when you create it, they just put it as that. So validation directive. So it's when you extend it, you have to implement the steps. All right. So you remember this, if you're somebody who uses the Laravel's form helper and form classes, you remember that's rules there. So here we can specify the rules we want to apply. All right. So we have to return, I believe, an array of validated fields. All right. Let me check. Let me confirm from direct yes. So that's what we're supposed to do, just like Laravel. So if our first name, let's say, is it maps to, so let's say the minimum characters is 3. We're just keeping it simple. And of course, it's an array, so you need to bring a comma. Then the last name. Let's say the last name, the maximum characters was 5. We're just trying to, you know, experiment this whole thing. And let's see the phone number. The phone number. Maximum of 10, or minimum of 10 rather. Minimum of 10. And then maximum of 15. Let's say these are the stuff that we wanted to validate against. Okay, so once we have created this, when we go to our schema, after we've done the create, we just call ours. So how do you call it? The name, there's a naming convention. So you wouldn't say capital C, but you start with, you know, small c, like the capitalized whatever, except that the first one has to be a small letter. So custom validation. You don't need to specify the directive part of it. So I'm going to get rid of this one so that we know if what we have done here is working. Is that okay? Okay. So I'm going to my
I think
play.
it should be complex validation.
Say that again.
I think it should be complex validation, not custom validation.
Yeah. Sorry. Complex validation, yes. So I'm going to my playground. Now, since we already have this 3 minimum in our validation, let me hit this one again and see if it's still giving. Okay, so now you can see our custom directive is working. The data given was invalid. The first name must be, all right, so let's assume the first name was more than 3. And we said this one, the maximum should be 5 for the last name. So let me add more characters and let's see if it's working. Okay, good. The last name may not be greater than 5 characters. Okay, so this is also working. So let's say, let me change this to hello Val. Okay, but then I'm going to make the phone number just these. Let's see if the phone number validation is also working. Good. The phone number must be at least 10 characters. So that one too is working. Okay. So let me exceed the 15 and let's see if that one also work. Well, I missed that one. So maybe there's something I missed in my code.
I'm pretty sure the phone number is like below 15 characters.
Say that again.
I'm saying I'm pretty sure the phone numbers is still below 15.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, wow. It's actually 15. Okay. So I was not as long as I thought. Okay, let me hit this and get an error. Good. So the phone number may not be greater than 15. Okay, that's true. Well, 15 looks kind of pretty longer than I thought. All right, so that is how you go about creating custom directives to do your complex validation or whatever you may want to do. So that is it about creating validation directives. Let me see what I have on my list as my next stuff. Okay, so the next thing we are going to move on to, we've talked about the naming sensitivity. All right, so let me also talk about something we call resolvers and fields. Okay, and before I say anything, let me go to the official documentation and go to the basics. Go to, is it? No, it's not here. But let me just look it up. Resolvers, yes. So let's say that what you wanted to query for, okay, like how we have done complex validation, you want it to also run a complex query. So the directives, the default directives that Laravel, the Lighthouse PHP comes with, you cannot work with. Or basically, you are somebody who doesn't like the directives. You want to go the eloquent way. Okay, how do you go about it? So that is when the resolvers comes in. So resolvers allow you to go that, apply that route. Okay, so you can read more about it. So we are going to resolver signature. All right. So initially this was their signature, but I don't know, they've not updated the docs. Now when we create a resolver, you realize it's just two arguments. Even this one is normal. Let's see for ourselves. So let me look at the commands. PHP. You know, this thing, I don't know. Cyril, I believe you help me with getting the help for it. Never works for me. I think, yeah, so I would rather get an error and then look at this. I don't know how you actually run this particular, how to get the directive, the commands available for a specific thing, but that's okay. So what we are going to create, a query. We're going to use this command. And then we will resolve it to a field. Okay, so let's say PHP artisan lighthouse query. I mean, you could do the same thing for mutations. So some complex query. And then this should also create a new mutation queries folder holding some complex query. Okay, so it will create, like I said, you see the signature has changed, but it's not the same on their docs. They still have the for signature. So PHP has an invoke function, and that's what they're making use of here. And if you know about the PHP invoke function, it allows you to, you know, call a class as if it was a function. And when we are using the resolvers, it's something that comes to play a lot. So if you don't want to resolve, if you don't want to create an extra function here, then by default, this is the function that you will use, and you wouldn't need to specify. So let me go about what I mean. The argument will also be what you pass to the schema. So let's say, how do we call it? Don't forget the naming convention. So then we called it some complex, so small s, then the next ones can be some complex query. And then let's say we were accepting ID. So it's required that the user has to specify an ID. Now, how do we resolve this? So let me quickly go about this. So you resolve it into something we call a field. Now, let me specify my type. So this, let's say it returns just a single customer. And we are resolving it to a field. So you use the field directive. And you specify resolver and the name of the, so we are resolving complex, no, some complex. Here you type the same name as the file, some complex query. Now, if we were using a different function to resolve this, we would have done the same thing, at then the name of the function, just like your usual thing you do in your controllers. But because we are not using, we are using the invoke, we are not using any new function, we would use this. So what this means is that when we call this query, this ID will become available for us to be able to use in this function. Okay, so I can come here and then say it should return And what should it return? No, I'm not returning an array, a collection. It should return customer and find. Let me import this because this is a model. So it should find the customer with the ID of whatever they pass in. So how do I access the ID the user passed? It's through the args. Then you specify, it's an array, so you specify the name. It's called ID. Okay, so with this we've resolved. Now, if we go back here and everything looks clear, we can go back to our here and let's run, it's a query. So let's go and run our query. I think we are done with mutations for good. So queries are here. Okay, so we called it, this is some complex query. Let me see. Some complex query, all right? And don't forget, because it's a customer type, we'll have to specify the subselection. So some complex query. And then we specify the ID. So we are retrieving, okay, let me retrieve Samuel. He has the ID of 8. So give me the first name and the last name. And in fact, let me include the ID. Let me hit this. Good. So some complex query runs and resolves with this. So the interesting thing about resolvers is that one, you can work as if you were using, you know, you can run your native model queries, Laravel stuff without having to ever worry about the directives that the Lighthouse package comes with. But another thing also is that you can actually add this to any query that you run, okay? Because you have resolved to a field, you can add it to any query without having to worry about, so for instance, I can, let's go. I can actually call the customers, actually we have, yes, the customers query. Oh, I'll jump to page. Okay, so I think it's already here, yes. So I can append, because I've resolved to a field, I can append it to any extra query and it should still work fine. So let me see this. Okay, good. So you see some complex query, this is where it ends. But then it's part of this whole request. It doesn't make more round trips. It's part of the request. So we are retrieving all customers, but then we are retrieving this particular field that we are resolving to some complex query. Okay. Let me see what I have on my list. Okay. All right. So let me also teach you. The last time I was trying to get you to paginate, but I couldn't. So to paginate, we have 6 minutes, after which we may either have to rejoin or continue the discussion on the page. So paginate.
I think we can rejoin and wrap up, and then we just like have a informal
Okay.
discussion.
All right. Okay. So paginate. How do we paginate? Okay. So there's a paginate directive, and then it teaches us how to. So basically, whatever directive you run, don't forget Lighthouse is a package. So it sits between your program and then the actual GraphQL. So it translates whatever you type into the GraphQL syntax, and it shows you about how it does it. Okay, so they said we do this, and we can query it this way. Okay, so let me go back to our code. So let's paginate our customers instead of retrieving all of them. Or better still, let's have a customers paginated. Customers paginate. Let's say we have this query and is of type. It's returning a collection, which is, and it's required that it's a type of customer, and it's also required that it is a collection. Okay, so you can specify a default. So this is one interesting thing about GraphQL. You can specify the default number of fields you want in one page, default, but also the front end has the option of choosing how many they actually want to paginate. So that's the interesting thing. So as you can see, the last time, the default one, this one, you see, it has default of 10. But then it doesn't matter. The front end still has the option. So when we go to our dashboard, sorry, our playground, I'm going to comment out the queries we just wrote. And then I'm going to paginate. So how do we paginate? Now the documentation says that we should type the name of what we want to, how we call our customers paginate. And you should specify, so you say first, think first, then you specify the number you want. So let's say we want to paginate 2. Then what else? You specify data, and then the fields that you want. So first name, last name. In fact, let me include the ID. And then you specify the paginator info. That's the one usually I don't remember. Paginate if, let me check the documentation so that we can all be at peace. Paginator info. In fact, let me just grab it from the docs. All right. And we hit this. Cannot query field on type. Did you mean customer? Okay, so I didn't type the name well. I missed the T. So, and even I want it to be customers paginate. So the name is, and there's also wow, spells is so weird. Customers paginate. Okay. Customers paginate, all right. Good. So now you can see that our data is paginated. So it gives us just 2. We requested for 2, and then it tells us that we have 4 pages in total, and we are on the first page. So if we like, we can increase this to 6, and now we have 6. So you see, this is the beauty of GraphQL. One of the beauties of it, where in your REST you just, it's some weird way, or you have to set a variable and all that. But this one on the fly, they have the option of specifying how many they actually want to pick up. So I think this is as much as I wanted to practically show you, but then I also want to tell you, make you aware that there is an authentication bit of it, which I'm not going to handle in this particular session. But then if you come to security, you can learn about how to authenticate your APIs. Even Sanctum is supported. So you can, the other time someone was asking, so this is it. You can go and read about it if you are interested in it, and how to apply the Sanctum middleware to your APIs. You can even do authorization using the policies. Who is authorized to do what? You can do that. And then you can even do file uploads with a Scala data type. So you remember the other time Cyril was asking about the scalars. The scalars allow us to specify stuff like dates and file uploads. So scalars, you can use that for stuff like dates and uploads. You can do that with GraphQL. And you can also, handle errors the way you like it. I think that should be on concepts. No. Digging deeper. Okay, yes. So error handling, how you want to handle errors that are returned to your users. Okay. And very soon we'll be going off, but we'll come back and then I'll talk about resource exhaustion. Okay, so I was telling you about how you can, change the error messages to user-friendly ones for your users. But when you are using GraphQL, there's this final thing you need to be aware of under performance. Is it performance or concept? No, concept. What is it? Let me look for it for you. Read that, and we are done with the submission. Security. Yes, resources extraction. So there's this thing that you have to be aware of. It says GraphQL gives enormous power to clients, but with great power comes great responsibility. Since clients have the possibility to craft very complex queries, our service must be ready to handle them properly. These queries may be abusive queries from evil clients or may simply be very large queries used by legitimate clients. In both of these cases, the client can potentially take your GraphQL server down. This intro was taken from How to GraphQL. We recommend reading the full thing. So How to GraphQL is there, more stuff about the real GraphQL. You can utilize the built-in security options through that. And then if you implemented some additional security feature, we are welcoming contributions. So this is it. This is it about the submission for this week, which happens to be probably our final submission in GraphQL for a long time. If we have any question, we can raise it now.
I guess my question is about, let's say, how much flexibility do you have on the data returned back to the client? So if for example, you want to nest your response into like a different under a different key, or you want to remove and have your response be on the top level, like how much flexibility do you have over there?
I should believe there is a way around it. I think so. Let me check something. I think I read. Let me see. I think you have the ability to do that. I think you have the ability to do that. Except that I've not done that before, so I've not tried it. But I think my I flashed on it some time ago.
Okay.
But then there's
take a look.
Yes. Right. You have to probably do a little googling and see how you could go about it. But there's a lot of flexibility. Except that one thing I happen to have experience was, so I was experimenting GraphQL. I used it in an application, deployed it. Then there was an update. A certain user requested a feature. Then I also found something, resolved it, pushed it. But then I did everything I could possibly think about on my server. The changes would just not pick. Even though it was working locally, I restarted my server. I cleared my cache, anything I could think of. And like I said, community support for Laravel, GraphQL, it's not the best, even though they have a Slack page. But then, forums are open to people's discretion. They like if they like, they answer. If they don't like, they don't answer. Yeah. But I wish there was like some kind of a full tutorial guide where people could enroll and learn, master the whole GraphQL thing beside the documentation, because for most of us, documentation is not our first point of call when we want to really, really understand something, because some of the stuff are a little technical and we may not really get it until we've seen somebody implement it. Then we're able to come back to documentation, read and understand what they meant. But unfortunately, there's just the littles of that type here. I don't know if Gav, who happens to be the senior man in GraphQL, probably has anything that I'm missing.
I think it's a good space that you can fit in. You could start working on some video series and then see what the feedback will be like. It's a good space to be in. I haven't really given GraphQL that much consideration in the APIs that I build at work. Mostly because like it's a paradigm shift, right? Like it's something that you have to
unlearn and relearn.
Be that it may like REST. Yeah, exactly. Be that it may like REST, even though it has its problems and like you have the issue of like having lots of data. There are different ways you can technically handle those. Like for example, when in Laravel, for example, you have your resources, you can easily have resources for different cases. And I feel like, especially if you have like a closed system, if you have like a system that you are giving out, you want to control as much as possible what data people can access and how they access that data. And I think REST gives you all of those things without you having to think too much about it. So I do think it's like a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of like get used to it before you dive into it. So I haven't actually given much consideration to it, but like I did enjoy like going through some of these key concepts and at least understanding how I could get started with it and start using it. I think with what you've given, it should be way easier for me now to dive into GraphQL. So yeah,
I should believe so. So yeah, in fact, the only tutorial I had on GraphQL I found on YouTube, even aside the CRUD, the only thing it went ahead to do was to show you how to use it on your front end, and that was it. And he even admitted the same thing I'm saying here, that when it comes to Laravel, the community support is so small. So if anybody also has any questions or contributions, Gav, would you say something to us? So I'm pushing it to our repo so that those of us who might want to pick it up and experiment, I don't know, PRs or all that, you feel free to do that. So hit push.
Sounds good. You push twice.
Failed to push some of the refs to, oh.
You double tap push.
So go.
Have you played around with like aliases around in your command line?
Say that again.
Have you played around with aliases in your command? I think you can stop the recording now since you're done with the GraphQL stuff.
Sure. So let me end our recording.